Well, hello, Ceramics One. I'm going to make this a really quick discussion tonight about how to go about creating and applying foot rings to your slab mold saucer that we're making. So I've got my saucer, I've had it on my paper, and now it has been sitting there for a while, and I'm going to remove this. And you can see that it is more sturdy, it'll hold its shape. I can come in and do cleanup work by taking the end of my knife like this and cleaning that up, making it even. I could also come in and use just the edges of a sponge, but craftsmanship is going to be a big important part of your grade. So you're obviously going to want to be thinking about cleaning up the edges, making things look neat. Excuse me. The other thing obviously that you're going to need to consider is, of course, your sculptural components. This is a required part of this project, is that you have a sculptural connection to the mug that you've created. And so I want you actively thinking about that. You did your designs. Some of you, after you have your saucer created from this template, or basic template, you might decide to change your design a little bit. And that's okay if you need to make slight edits. But after you have your form started like this, I want to show you guys how to create and attach feet. Okay, feet being the pedestal or the thing that your form sits on. So there are multiple ways that you can create a foot on a handmade form. I'm going to go over a few of the really quick and easy methods to help you and kind of go over and show you how to do those. So I have several pieces of clay that I've already prepped so that I could keep the length of this demonstration a little shorter for you guys so that you can have more work time. One of the most basic ways that you can create a foot ring is to simply take a small amount of clay and create a rounded ball form. Okay, and you would want to create several of these. You can roll it. Some people like to, instead of a circular form, they like to do a square form. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. But after you create your rounded form, my clay's a little touch on the dry side right now, but that's okay. So after you have a rounded form, you would not want to score and slip something exactly like that on the bottom because it won't sit completely flat. So what you're going to want to do is have the connecting point between the actual saucer or the platter and this a little more flat. So to do that, I'm simply going to take, if you have a knife form, you could use a fettling knife if you have it. We're using COVID materials, so we're going with something that's really available. You could take off just a small amount if you wanted a large foot. I usually take the spheres and I cut them in half. And then by doing that, I now have two forms that I can score and slip and attach to the base. And I would do 4 of these. If you're going to do 3, make sure that they're spaced so that you don't get a wobble. And then, of course, because with every form that we make, we have to think about scoring and slipping. You would score and slip the base, score and slip this, use your slip and attach it. So that's one method, the sphere. The second method that you could use would be to take a piece of clay that you've rolled out and flattened into a slab, and you could create a shaped foot. Now it could be anything from a perfect square. It could be, maybe you've got a design motif on the front and you cut out a leaf shape that's going to be your foot and make a design. Maybe we're going to do more geometric forms. You would score it, slip it, and attach it and create your elevation system with something like this. So a cut flat shape from a slab. That works really, really well. The other method that you could take if you want something that's a little more exact and a little more similar to a standard foot ring would be to take something circular and press into a flat slab of clay like we have here. And then I'm going to come in, and you can use obviously your knife to cut this out. You could also come in and use toothpicks, work really, really well. I'm going to rotate this. And because I have that line pressed in, I'm just tracing it. Rotate so I can see. You can see there are a few air bubbles in the slab. If this were yours, you obviously would pierce that air bubble. So you cut out a shape like this. Now obviously we wouldn't take a large piece like this and attach it, but smooth that down, and then maybe I cut the center out as well. Maybe I take another circular form and press down and trace it. And in this situation, maybe I will take and just do a freehand. If you're doing one of these kind of methods, it's a good idea to keep it really flat and thin. So thinner than 1/4 inch for these. Take this guy out. Now, if this were actually a foot ring I were going to use, I would really make sure that I come in and straighten this and make it more exacting. Just straighten that up. Again, clean it. Craftsmanship is vital. You would take and of course score this, slip both sides just like we've done for everything that we've made. Place that down and attach it, okay? But being much neater than this, you would trace both sides of it. And then the last method, you could also use the interior part of this. Take something like a flat circle, divide it and create a shape. You're only limited by your creativity. Okay, something like that to create your foot ring. So you could be very creative with it. And then the other method that I want to show you, and the one that I've saved to last, that I'm actually going to score and slip and show you a little bit of perfecting, is going to be using a coil. And then the reason that I'm doing this one is because you actually see this used quite frequently. So I'm going to come in and press kind of where I want to score. So I know that my foot ring is going to kind of go in that indent. I'm going to come in, and you could use the end of obviously things like a toothpick. I could use my old toothbrush. When I'm doing this coil method, I like to have a little bit more solid connection. So I like my trenches for my scoring and slipping to be a little deeper, just so they hold a little more slip. Now, if we were in the studio and we weren't doing COVID ceramics, we would obviously probably use the metal serrated rib or scraper tool to do this. And then what I'm going to do, obviously, on the back or bottom of my coil, I'm going to score that as well. So I know where to end that. Cut both edges flat so we get a nice connection. And then obviously with this, I'm going to take my time. Press down hard enough so that you get ridges and little texture grooves. And we're going to come in and attach and place our slip. And again, this sculptural saucer is going to be the last of our clay forms that we get to make. So you really want to think about doing this really neatly. Craftsmanship should be really impressive. It's your final chance to dazzle and amaze me before we do your exam research project, which we'll be chatting about next week. So then I'm going to take my coil, and you want to make sure that your coil that you use for this, that you try to be fairly consistent with the thickness of your coil. Now usually you're going to see these with a pretty even, completely straight connection, but you could do something kind of cool and organic. You could have a shaped connection. And so just getting it attached is just the very beginning. And then I'm going to come in, just like if we were doing a coil on one of our coil forms, I would want to blend this, and I want to attach this around as I go. Now you can use obviously your fingers to do the blending. You could also come in and use the edges of something like the end of this brush, for example, could work. Just to press down a little of that clay. It then allows you to come in and neaten that edge up really evenly. You could use the ends of something like a toothbrush. If your clay is very soft, you could use your finger. Your blending popsicle stick that we gave you guys, that I gave you at the very beginning, that was in your first clay pack for COVID, that is ideal for blending this ring. And then you hold it up, kind of perpendicular, and curve it around like this after you've blended it. And then you smooth it, because craftsmanship is critical. And I hope that you guys can see, just from the small section that we've just done, comparing this side to this side, you can see that this side looks much better, and I'm not even done blending. And I'm going to do the same thing on the outside. So you obviously are not going to stop after just doing the interior. I'm going to come and do the outside as well. And so maybe on my section here, maybe I'm going to come in and use a different tool this time, just to show you that there are many different tools that you could use. The creativity of what tool you choose to use is part of the thinking process that's involved in our art classes. So that's a really healthy thing for you to experiment and explore. And again, making sure that that is even and neat, and I'm going to show you that up close. So you can see that by blending that, it looks much neater and more even. And when I grade you guys on these, I will be having you take close-up photos of the bottoms of your pieces and multiple shots of the sidewalls. So craftsmanship is going to be really important. So do a really good job with cleaning these and blending these. We want to do even better than we did with the coils. Okay? All right, guys, that's enough to get you going for today. Also keep in mind that when you flip these guys over, you've got to do all of the sculptural components that you designed for the top. So do keep that in mind, and I look forward to seeing your work soon. Bye.